Welcome back to the My Aggie Nation podcast. We're here with Susan Miller Degnan of the Miami Herald, and to break down the Miami side of things. To Susan, first, thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time. And how excited is it for week 2 when we get some actual Power 5 against Power 5 football?
Definitely excited. Glad I'm home. Looking forward to this. After last year, it should be fun.
Sure thing. Well, let's get right into it. What are some of the biggest headlines from the Miami side of things heading into this game?
Well, I think, Miami, they're saying it's not a revenge game. I think they need to win. That's the biggest headline. They come in with an opening game win. That's not unusual, but they did play a very, very good game against Miami of Ohio last week. They won 38-3. It was a clean game, and Miami has a new offensive coordinator this year, and Shannon Dawson from Houston. He was kind of an air raid type architect, and then they have a new defensive coordinator that came out of Marshall, Lance Guidry, and he's really good, really smart, and the defense was very impressive as far as playing for a first game, a clean game, even tackling wise, they did pretty well. The offensive line is much improved. I mean, I'm not sure if those are headlines, but the team played better than they have. Of course, they had a lousy year last year at 5-7. And that first game last year, or the game they played against Texas A&M last year, was it was entertaining kind of, but it was there were a lot of mistakes and things like that. It was close, but it wasn't great for Miami, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was wondering, over here, Jimbo had a really bad year as well. And of course, being the media, we have all the answers. So that's why everybody tunes in to all of us or picks up the paper. So that in mind, when you look back at last year, Cristobal comes in, a lot of fanfare, a lot of headlines, gets to spend a lot on assistants. So my question is, why did Miami not have success last year in your mind?
Well, the offense was, Josh Gaddis was the offensive coordinator. It's funny because he had won the Broyles Award, but he was a horrible fit, honestly, for UM. They had a separate quarterbacks coach for Tyler Van Dyke. It just wasn't an offense that fit Miami that well. I don't know how much he got along with all the players, honestly, although they'll never come out and say it publicly. Also, Tyler Van Dyke, the quarterback who came into last year as the reigning ACC Rookie of the Year, he got on October 22nd against Duke. He hurt his shoulder very badly, and he ended up having a 3rd-degree AC joint sprain and missed pretty much the last half of the season. They tried to get him in against FSU. He lasted just a few plays or whatever. He lasted part of the first quarter. He couldn't. They tried to get him in the last game against, it was Pittsburgh, because they wanted to make a bowl game. And that was a mistake too, in my opinion. They shouldn't have put him in. He was really hurt. Okay. So it's just the whole season in that respect. They're Kevin Steele, and now he's at Alabama, the defensive coordinator last year. I love him. He's a great guy, but I really think they've moved up in the world with these 2 new coordinators. And Tyler supposedly is healed. Although he did, a storyline last week was that he hit his finger, his index finger, I guess, or the side of his thumb, right throwing hand, the thumb side, on a helmet during practice. So he had a splint in the game, and his index finger, a splint or a covering. I don't know if he's going to have that again. So he was not 100% last week. He said he was. Why would he wear a splint? Okay. I don't know, but it was just it was a lousy season last year. And their offensive line is so much better. Oh my God, this year. So you ask me, keep asking.
There you go. Cool.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Tyler Van Dyke. I was going to ask about what his health was finger wise. I know a lot of rushing in that game last week against the Miami of Ohio. Yeah. How healthy are you gleaning that he might be, and how much do you think they're going to lean more on that run game, or is he going to be able to unleash the arm a little bit? What does that offense look like with him hurt and not hurt?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's hurt now. I'm not sure. I mean, he says he's fine. He did okay last week. He did throw a pick. Of course, Shannon Dawson blamed that on himself. He said he got too greedy. But I mean, listen, they have 4 really good running backs, which I didn't say that before, but they have 4 really good running backs. And it was amazing because 3 of them, they split the carries evenly. I mean, 3 of them had 9 touches and 1 of them had 8 touches. 3 of them scored touchdowns. They had 250 passing yards, I guess, and 250 rushing yards, 243 passing. And basically what Tyler Van Dyke said was, we keep asking him, he only attempted 2 passes of more than 20 yards, to 2 deep passes. So we're wondering how his hand is really. And of course, he's not going to say if it hurt, but, and one of them was a pick, by the way, one of the long passes. But what he said was that Miami of Ohio, they were deep on everything. They gave them the underneath game. And and Miami, he said, took what they were given. They just have to be patient. And if that's whatever they're given, they're going to do. So they can pass, they can run, and hopefully they can pass. I think we're all waiting to see the Tyler from 2 years ago, but last week wasn't it, because he didn't really have those opportunities.
Yeah, and on the flip side, A&M has seemingly found their quarterback in Connor Wegman, but Miami has all new cornerbacks this year. What does that defensive secondary look like for Miami as they go against the kind of passing attack that A&M has at least demonstrated in one game so far this season?
Well, that's the part of the game I would be most concerned about for Miami. I also think they need to improve their pass rush, but they have I think they have a good rotation at D line. I think they're talented. They've got to improve. They've got to get in Wegman's face. But the DBs, they started with, I think, 5 last week, and 2 linebackers, 4 defensive linemen, and both their cornerbacks last year got drafted. So they're either one of the starters last week is a transfer out of West Virginia. He was there, Darrell Porter Jr. He was there at UM last year also. Another one's an Oklahoma transfer, a 5th-year senior this year, Jaden Davis, who started. I'm not saying they're bad at all, but they're totally unproven. They're either new or transfers or inexperienced, and I think Texas A&M, you got a good offensive coordinator. I mean, they're definitely going to try to take advantage of UM's secondary cornerbacks. Now, UM does have they have an All-American safety in Cameron Kinchins. And James Williams is a big guy. He's like 6'5". The other safety he's good. Their starting safeties are good, but honestly, they don't have depth in safeties either. So I think it's going to be tough for UM.
How much of a home field advantage does Miami have? Do you feel every team talks about their home field advantage? Big ranked team coming to town, a chance for Miami to take a step back ahead from last year's disappointment. How much of a home field advantage is that going to be Saturday afternoon?
I mean, it is their home field. Okay. So it is going to be an advantage, but it's, they're not going to be 107,000 people there. I mean, and Miami, as you know, is a different place. It's not, there's a lot of stuff going on in Miami. I'm not making excuses, but they don't get a ton of fans there. They come out for big big games and big events, and I don't even know if they consider this big enough. The way the crowd is, they drew, for example, an announced 49,000, but it was pretty accurate. Usually it's like, more than half empty, and they say announce a paid attendance or whatever. It was actually decent last week, and it rained during part of the game, and the fans were pretty good. Somebody from UM told me they expect 50 in the mid to upper 50s, which for UM is really good, guys. Believe me, it's really good, and they will make noise. I mean, they'll make a lot of noise. They haven't started booing yet.
What?
So that happens sometimes, but it's not Texas A&M. It's
Gotcha.
just not. And so it is. Yes, it's an advantage. It's for sure an advantage playing at Hard Rock, but it's not. It's not like your stadium.
What has Cristobal said to the media about why does he feel this year will be different than last year?
All he talks about is doing the work, putting your head down, grinding, and doing the work. And and they had a great recruiting class. They were like a top 7 recruiting class. Got a ton of really good freshmen, by the way. The offensive line. I mean, you're asking me what Cristobal. The offensive line is his baby. Mm-hmm. Alex Mirabal, the O-line coach, and Cristobal are very close friends. Cristobal is a former UM O-lineman, won a national championship. There's no doubt what he's concentrating on are both lines. Are recruiting to get the defensive line and the offensive line, but especially the offensive line. And let me tell you, they have a pretty darn good offensive line now. They've got a left guard that transferred from Alabama, who was a starter, and I don't think he gave up. Javion Cohn gave up a sack last year. They have a left tackle who's very, very good, Jalen Rivers, who played guard before. He's very good. The center is Matt Lee, out of UCF, a transfer who was considered, I think, one of the top centers in the country. And the right tackle is a true freshman. That's kind of unheard of, who started this. He was the number 1 offensive line recruit in the nation this past year, Francis Malagoa. I'm not saying it right. Sorry. And by the way, his brother is a starting linebacker who was probably the best defensive player on the field. It's pretty interesting. He's a transfer out of Washington State. So, I probably got off topic here, but I mean, Cristobal is just saying they're just going to keep working. They're going to keep getting better, and he thinks they're going to be better this year.
Yeah, we'll close it out with this because we know you need to get back to writing, as all of us need to. Any feelings on the game? Whether you want to give a prediction or whether you want to give a key matchup, or what's kind of your feeling on how this game will go?
I think I'm not gonna. I hate predictions. I mean, I like last week. I knew pretty much who I was going to win. This week, I want. There's some games that I'm kind of pretty sure. This game, I mean, it's a 4-point spread now. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're at UM. I definitely wouldn't say for sure UM's going to win this game. Okay, I think, but I wouldn't say UM definitely loses this game for sure. I do think UM can win this game. Okay, I'm not helping you. I'm not being juicy here, but as far as I think again the UM. I think the UM offensive line has to keep opening holes. I mean, it's the same old stuff. I think the D line has to get more pressure. The UM D line has to get more pressure on Wegman, or I don't know how they can stop that. And and I guess your D line is really good, right? So I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Cease, closing thoughts.
The line, I think the lines will do a lot because A&M's going to go up in quality. So is you guys from Miami of Ohio. So I think whoever wins the lines might win the ball game. You know, of course, turnovers always key, but I am interested to see what A&M's both lines will do against Miami. So vice versa. So I guess we need to put our binoculars real close to those 10, 12 guys button heads and see what happens.
Yeah, I was saying a little bit earlier, I actually see it a little differently in that if Miami, even if Tyler Van Dyke can throw the ball, and that's a little bit more of the game plan, if they are looking to establish the run, I was really impressed with what A&M's run defense was able to do. If they can make Miami one-dimensional in that regard, I could see it as a 10-point A&M lead, but 10-point A&M win. But I could also see it as if Van Dyke is wheeling and dealing and throwing the ball around. Yeah, it could be a toss-up. So I think a lot of it comes down to the line of scrimmage, and especially the run defense and run game between the two teams. Well, Susan, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time. And real quick, if you could tell everyone how to find your work and follow you on any socials that you have or anything you do in that regard.
Thank you. Thanks. On Twitter, it's at S, like Susan, at S Miller Degnan. Oh, you'll never be able to spell that.
We'll have a little graphic. We'll put a little graphic up there.
You'll have it. S Miller, and Degnan is D like David, E-G, N like Nancy, A-N like Nancy. S Miller Degnan.
And all your work is on the Miami Herald. What's the website?
MiamiHerald.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for giving us a few minutes of your time. Thank you all for listening, watching, and we'll be back next week with another My Aggie Nation podcast. See ya.
Bye-bye.